everyone, in this video I am going to talk about the novella The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka. Let's first see what this particular term means. Kafkaesque. Kafkaesque is used to describe a situation that is almost surreal, especially having a nightmarishly complex, bizarre, or illogical quality. And of course, it is derived from the name of Czech writer Franz Kafka, known for his surreal nightmarish stories. The term itself first gained popularity in the mid-20th century and has since become a widely recognized term in literature and in everyday language. Franz Kafka, born July 3, 1883, was a German-speaking Bohemian novelist and short story writer based in Prague. His stories are famous for containing the elements of realism and absurdity. His famous works includes The Trial, written by Kafka in 1914, 1915, and on 1925 it was published posthumously by his friend Max Brod, despite Kafka's request that Brod destroy the manuscript. The book, which is a story of a man who is charged with a crime that is never named, was left unfinished. Let's move on to the Metamorphosis. Kafka wrote The Metamorphosis in 1912, and it was published in German as Die Verwandlung. It deals with themes such as alienation, disgust, horror, disillusionment, and absurdism. The story abruptly starts with Gregor Samsa waking up from troubled dreams, finding himself transformed in his bed into a horrible vermin or a gigantic insect like a cockroach. As the story goes on, the reader slowly came to learn about Gregor Samsa and that he is a traveling salesman and the sole breadwinner of the family. And waking up late, he has just missed his 5 o'clock train to his work. As Gregor starts worrying about his stressful job while struggling to get up using his newly transformed body, his family starts noticing that something is amiss. At the same time, Gregor's superior, the chief clerk, arrives and scolds him for his tardiness and strange behavior, even warning that his job might be in danger. His family tries to assuage the chief clerk because the only reason Gregor was working for him is because his father has used debts to the chief clerk, and Gregor has been paying it off little by little while also providing for his family. All the while, they were standing outside Gregor's room, and Gregor was unable to move his transformed body. And when the chief clerk accuses him of using up the work money, Gregor tries to reason with him, but no one is able to understand his speech. And the chief clerk exclaims that, "Did you all hear the way Gregor spoke just now? That was the voice of an animal." And just when Gregor manages to open the door with great difficulty, his family is horrified and shocked at his transformed appearance, and the chief clerk runs away. Gregor tries to follow him to explain to him, but the clerk was even more horrified and flees the scene. Gregor was injured while being pushed back into his room by his father. No one wants to see Gregor as Gregor lies listlessly in his room. His sister Grace starts bringing him food. At first, she brings him milk with bread, but he was unable to finish it, even while milk being his favorite. Noticing that, she brings a variety of leftovers for Gregor to try. He discovers that he prefers rotten food now. Weeks goes on as Gregor spends his time shut inside his room. Only his sister comes in occasionally to clean his room and give him food, and whenever she comes in, Gregor hides himself under a couch to not further inconvene her with his horrific appearance. Time to time, he looks outside the window to entertain himself, which was to no avail, as there was only one grey building, which was a hospital, obstructing all the other views. So he later takes up the habit of crawling around the walls, which he also finds pretty comfortable with his new body. The sister, having noticed this new behavior, tries to make it even more comfortable for him. So she asks their mother to help move their furniture out of his room. But he doesn't want everything gone. Gregor sees those furniture as a link to his memories as a human, and by losing them, he'd lose himself, his old self, or so he thinks. He watches in despair as the writing desk he had used ever since he was a child was taken away from his room. And when he tries to resist to at least save a picture from being taken away, he scares his already deceased mother and as he gets out of his room, his father comes in and misunderstands the situation spectacularly. Mr. Samsa throws apples at him, and Gregor gets severely injured. Another month passes while Gregor recovers from his injury. His family members each takes up new jobs. Mr. Samsa in a bank, Mrs. Samsa has taken up sewing, and his sister Gretch a sales job while also studying French and shorthand. The family makes several adjustments. They dismisses their maid. Instead, a charwoman just comes in every morning to clean. They had rented out one of the rooms to three gentlemen. As they are short on money, they take up these things. Gregor feels thoroughly neglected, as not even Gretch is as meticulous as she was before in cleaning his room or bringing him food, instead chucking away leftovers in a hurry. Not to mention the injury, as the rotten apple was still lodged onto his back. He feels immobile almost all the time, and even crawling around the walls is difficult for him. He's taken up to starving himself. One night, Great plays the violin for the lodgers, the three gentlemen. Though the lodgers seem bored, Gregor crawls out of his room, enjoying the beautiful music and optimistic that he will be able to help his family and become close to Great again. The lodgers, noticing the weird creature, feel shocked and decides that they will leave and not even pay for the time they'd stayed so far. They blackmails his father. Great tells her mother and father that the cockroach, which she can't believe is her brother Gregor, has ruined their lives entirely, and that if it was actually Gregor, then he would have died long ago. Understanding that an animal can't live alongside humans, and the whole family agrees and decides that they must do something and get rid of the creature soon. Heartbroken, Gregor goes back into his room, wondering how he had even gotten so far with his injury. He thinks of his family as he dies. The next morning, the charwoman who cleans the house discovers his body and later disposes of it. The rest of the family decides to take off work and goes to the countryside to relax, and they talk happily of their future plans about finding a new smaller apartment to move into. They feel free. They feel free after having gotten rid of their current problem, which was Gregor. Then let's move on to themes and analysis. Absurdity. Beginning with its first sentence, the metamorphosis deals with an absurd or wildly irrational event, which is Gregor waking up to discover that he has turned into a giant insect. And there's no specific or supernatural explanation given to reason with this particular phenomena in the story. The family, even while treating him with disgust and horror, they just accepted the situation as it is. We don't see anybody questioning it at all, including Gregor. Even after his metamorphosis, he worries how he's going to work from now on and about catching the train, not how he has got into the situation in the first place. Even the charwoman, when she first discovers Gregor, shows no surprise. All these elements adds to the absurdity of the story overall. Disorientation or disconnection. Gregor's transformation completely alters his physical appearance but leaves his mind intact, unchanged, which was also a major reason behind the misunderstanding between him and his family. As we can see around the climax of the story, after Great exclaims that that creature was not her brother, Mr. Samsa agrees by saying, if he would have just understood us, then perhaps we could come to some kind of arrangement with him. Meaning they don't know that he can understand them. They just think he had totally changed into some weird creature. And Gregor, as his physical needs starts to change, for example, eating habits and his newfound habit of crawling around, at some point he tried to draw emotional comfort from his surroundings with his old furniture and pictures, but it was to no avail. But throughout the story, his body and mind remains opposed to each other, his mind retaining his humanity as his body stood opposed to that. And lastly, alienation. The greatest consequence of Gregor's transformation is nothing other than alienation. The distance the transformation creates between Gregor and his family, both physically and psychologically. We may see that even before his transformation, Gregor was not particularly close to his family. mainly because of his job that requires him traveling around constantly. And even though initially it felt pride at helping his family, and later on, as they begin to expect more and more from him, it had become sort of pressure for him. In the story, there's also no other mentions of any close or intimate relationships Gregor had apart from his family, such as friends or partners. In fact, the alienation caused by Gregor's metamorphosis can be viewed as an extension of the alienation he already felt as a person. Thus, Gregor, understanding that he is no longer wanted, slowly dies from both his alienation that was created because of his family's neglect and his own guilty despair. Thanks for listening.